Hello and welcome to Tapas Pretzels, the adorsys podcast. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to our Tapas Pretzels podcast with Tim and David and myself, Inga, as a moderator. And we have a new guest. Hello, Ryan Dolley.
Hello, Inga. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you. And not only that you are an experienced data leader and the vice president of the product strategy of GoodData, but what I've also read was you also started using Excel at age 7 to prove that the Silver Surfer
Yes.
could be the Hulk. So my question is, do you still use Excel these days?
That's a great question. I think as a business intelligence professional, I'm supposed to say no, because all BI professionals feel that Excel is the bane of their existence. But of course, right? Everybody uses Excel. It's unavoidable, and I do still use it quite a bit. So yeah.
It's really nice because I've also heard the sentence that Excel is the second best tool for everything.
Yeah, it really is. I can tell you, I spent I kind of have a career trajectory with Excel, which is I spent maybe the first 8 years of my career on BI teams where what I was trying to do was convince people to stop using Excel and instead to use the BI tool, right? And then eventually I realized that was just like pushing a boulder up a hill that was always going to roll back down. So I gave up, and then I learned to embrace Excel and instead make it easier for my users to use Excel when that's what they needed, and just help them have the right data, right? Like let's just do that. Let's just make sure they have the right data, and then they can go do whatever they need to in Excel.
But we don't want to talk, of course, about Excel today. So you've mentioned business intelligence. So what do you think? You said something that it's changing right now. Not because of Excel, but maybe also because of AI.
Yeah.
So how does it change currently? What would you say?
Yeah, there's really two trends in business intelligence that I really see right now. So the first one was kind of happening really independent of AI, and that is just the arrival of kind of engineering techniques into BI. Like if you think about the broader data ecosystem, one of the big stories of maybe the last 5 years is the rise of data engineering and kind of these software engineering practices and workflows into the data world. And I would say they arrived at business intelligence last. So if you're someone who does, data warehousing, maybe you're using you're using DBT, you're using these kind of code control techniques and CI/CD to build your data warehouses. And in the BI world, like we weren't doing any of that until pretty recently. That's a trend that we really see accelerating. And then into the middle of that, this kind of bomb of AI was dropped, where the big question when it comes to AI and business intelligence is just what will be the role of the business intelligence professional going forward. If we do live in a world where AI can do many of the tasks that were traditionally done by data analysts or BI professionals, like building visualizations, building dashboards. It increasingly looks like, maybe not immediately, but in the not too distant future, AI will be quite competent at tasks like that. And so then the question, is like, okay, so if what you do, you're a SAP expert or a Tableau expert or whatever it is, whatever your BI tool of choice is, like what becomes your job then? If the AI can really easily build dashboards and visualizations that are sufficient. And I do think we're heading towards that world. So those are kind of the two big trends that I see going on right now. And they're kind of colliding in the BI marketplace as we speak. Like you look at, from a BI vendor perspective, what are vendors working on? I would say it's really these two things.
Absolutely. Yes, I think one interesting question could be at this point to set a clear distinction between business intelligence and data science.
Yeah.
Right. Which is your definition?
Yeah, I mean, there. It's funny because data science over the years, I think, has kind of turned into like everything, right? If you were to look at companies that I've worked with or companies that we have in our customer base at GoodData and say, well, what does a data scientist do? You go to 10 companies, you probably get 10 different answers. And I would say, the distinction, at least over the course of my career as someone focused on business intelligence, really had to do with data science is a lot more focused in my mind on kind of the predictive side of things. And so whatever technologies you may be using, whether that's, some sort of algorithm or machine learning or now AI, data science is more about exploring the underlying data to produce explanations or predictions that are not obvious to human beings when looking at the data. Whereas business intelligence, you still do some of that, but you're more focused on, okay, how do I take any insights that may exist in the data and make them presentable and repeatable for the human beings who need to consume those insights to take some action, right? There's a reason the word science it exists in data science, but it's not in business intelligence. And I think it's because business intelligence is in many ways more of an art than a science, right? It depends more on your understanding as a practitioner of the people who are consuming the data and what moves them and motivates them as people, right? And I always kind of, I'm now on the product side, and I'm an executive at a business intelligence company, so I don't do a lot of hands to keyboard BI work anymore. But back when I used to, that was really what I was trying to measure more than anything was like, am I giving my users the insights they need in the form they need at the time they need them to do something? And data science is kind of less about that communication piece in my mind and more about actually finding the novel insights to begin with.
I mean, you already dropped the AI bomb basically, but I have to ask you this question: since you're an executive from a BI company, how is GoodData actually differentiating from other vendors like Tableau or Click or whatever? And why are you, well, the right solution for the AI time? I mean, it could be an obvious question, but it really might be of interest to all the audience here.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to AI in particular, our approach, what we see in the BI market is there's broad convergence around a pretty basic set of capabilities, and so that would be some form of natural language generation, natural language query, almost everyone in the form of a chatbot, right? So you look at Power BI and Tableau and everybody, ThoughtSpot has had this for the longest, kind of in a non-AI driven technology, but some sort of chat interface where an end user can come in and ask the type of question that they used to ask to a BI professional, right? Hey, I need information about X metrics and Y attributes, and I'm trying to solve a problem. Can you help me solve it? Where you can go in and you can chat with the BI tool and get that answer. So everybody's working on that. The other thing everybody's working on is some degree of kind of AI-driven automation. So that could be in the form of automatic detection of events in the data sets where you notify people proactively about it. It's also in the form of kind of adding in explanations to your visualizations and dashboards. So you imagine you're looking at a chart, and in the past, it would just be, say, a line chart. And now what we're increasingly seeing is the ability to say, hey, explain this line chart to me. Why did this number go up? What further data points should I explore in order to understand why this number went up or went down? And so all of that, we're working on all of that too. Everybody's working on that right now. What we're trying to do that sets us apart has to do with the question of where do people want to interact with these features. And what we find, and this has been true, you can look at, Gartner reports or Bark reports where they say, hey, what is business intelligence tool adoption? And it's always really low. It's 15% or 17% of the total number of users who could benefit from a BI tool actually use BI tools. And that's been just an unsolvable problem for the last decade plus. And so what we're looking at in GoodData is, well, if we have all these great AI tools, chatbots and explanations, and automatic notifications, but you still have to go into a BI tool to interact with any of that, then we think most users will still not want to do it. And so what we're really focused on is how can we take these data-driven AI features? Yes, we have them in the GoodData BI tool, but how can we help you get them out of the BI tool and into the places where people are actually doing work? And so what that looks like, for example, is like our chatbot is embeddable in other interfaces. You don't have to go into the GoodData interface to use it. And not only is it embeddable, but kind of the next step we find is that a lot of companies are already building their own chatbots or their own AI interfaces, and they don't want a separate interface for asking data questions. They want kind of a unified AI experience where if you ask a data-related question, you can get a visualization or a natural language explanation of that data, but you don't have to go to a different interface to do it. And so in that regard, all of our AI features are also available via our SDKs and APIs. So you can integrate them, and we have customers doing this where, say, they have a customer service chatbot, and if their existing chatbot detects a data related question, it actually routes the question on the back end to our AI. Our AI can explore the data model, create a visualization and an explanation of what happened, and then ship that back to the customer service chatbot, so that you kind of have this unified AI experience outside of the BI tool. And that's our big bet, that actually that will get much greater utilization than asking, so, oh, you've got a data question, please log into Tableau, right? Like, people don't want to do that. And AI is not going to change that. They still don't want to do that. So that's really where our research is focused right now.
And which is the impact you can expect from agentic AI in Power BI? Because the Power BI deals with very complex tasks, and agentic AI is to simplify that. What do you think about the impact?
Yeah. I mean, that's a big that's a big just area of where we. I mean, I agree. Like, that's where we expect to see a lot of progress, is in the simplification of complex tasks, particularly for end users. Like, learning a BI tool is there's a reason why there are, I don't know, tens of thousands of people on the planet whose whole career is like, I learned the BI tool. And I was one of them. I was a Cognos guy back in the day, when I got started in the industry. And, and so any ability to simplify that, I think will have huge gains for end user engagement. But I do think at the end of the day, like, to come back to what I said earlier, asking someone to still go into a BI interface and learn the BI interface well enough to even interact with the chatbot, like, I think will be a barrier to adoption of these features for any tool that doesn't have a plan on how to take them out of the BI tool and move them into places where people are really, where they're doing their day-to-day job.
Yeah, I agree. So then it's currently, like, GoodData is currently more focused when you say integration, like, currently you have a lot of APIs you expose, but do you truly believe in an agentic world? Like, you're gonna provide the AI, the agent for business intelligence that basically all master agents can broker around, ask questions, and it will always route in this way, and you will have the capabilities there.
Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it. That's the goal, right? That we will have kind of the business intelligence agent, and then the other agents can interact with it. And we'll be specifically trained and tuned for our business intelligence tasks. And there's a lot of stuff we're doing to try to make that a reality. Like, one of the things we're also focused on is we don't believe currently that you should have a large language model only approach. So depending on the type of question you're asking, you will kind of on the back end, we can route your question to an LLM. And right now, we're integrated with OpenAI's ChatGPT and with Azure GPT from Microsoft, but we're working on additional integrations there. Also, if you're running your own LLM in-house, we have the ability to integrate with that too. So we have some customers who are running, Llama or something on an internal data center, and we can integrate with those. But also, within GoodData itself, we have a small language model running locally that is optimized for like simple search tasks and that sort of thing, so that we're not always generating new content. Like if you ask a question and a human being has built a dashboard that answers your question, rather than creating something new, like we should just surface the pre-existing content for you. And we can do that really quickly and efficiently with a small language model. And then traditional ML too, like it's not going away. So we kind of have all three of these things under the hood. And depending on what kind of question you ask, we may route your question to a large language model, a small language model, or we may actually use traditional ML techniques, to answer your question, depending on what will give us kind of the best performance and cost balance at the time. So that's another area where, you talk about trying to be agentic. That's a big piece of it is like also, let's use the right technology for the task to make it give you great performance and optimize costs. Because LLMs are not, they're artificially inexpensive right now to use, I think, because of the level of investment. Like at some point, what's going to happen is those investors are going to want a return, and they're going to want to see ROI. And when that happens, suddenly, the 10 trillion chat GPT queries you're issuing a month are going to become really expensive.
There's no free lunch. And I think this is the trend I also observe, is like everyone currently thinks of what is the most effective way to do it. Like, is it really all about using the biggest LLMs, or are there better solutions for this? And this is great to see. I was thinking like in a way where we live also in the concepts of data products. I think agentic is like still a few years ahead in my opinion, but we currently seeing the trend of being more data product focused. Do you have also like some unique offerings that you see, or how do you see general the data product world right now? How do you see that?
Yeah, this is actually an area of special interest for me, because I think that the concept of the data product, and really data product thinking coming into, or product thinking in general, coming into data will help drive a lot of the changes that we're going to see in the next few years. And why I say that is that, I really think that, again, data, for some reason, I don't know, and I don't know why, if it's technology or if it's a cultural thing, but we're downstream of software engineering in a lot of ways. But it takes a long time for techniques that software engineers use to really find their way into data. And product thinking is one of those areas where I think it could just really dramatically change our focus away from the tools and technologies and into the actual consumer experience of data. And that's something that I really think is super necessary. Now, when you talk about data products in general, one of the questions I always ask people is, I will say, hey, what is a data product? And I get different answers every time. Like, there's no defined standard in our industry right now. I have some friends who would say, what's the weirdest answer I ever got to this? A data product is a collection of data contracts. And I said, okay, that's very interesting. But like, I think the only person who knows what that means is you, was kind of my response to that. And so, the way I think about it is actually especially because I'm a BI person, the product itself to me is is whatever it is that your end users are consuming. And so, that can be a table in a data warehouse or a set of APIs that are available to a software engineer, but it could also be, a number of reports and dashboards that are available to business consumers. And really the important thing is, did you engage in product thinking to produce those objects? And are you using some form of product lifecycle to maintain them? And if you are, then in my mind, you're making a data product. Ultimately, I'm not as concerned about like what is the thing, right? But I've been in the data and technology industry long enough to know that people get really hung up on these sorts of definitions and love to argue about them. And to me, when it comes to data products, like it's about the journey and not the destination, right? If you did data product thinking, if you're using design thinking and you're maintaining, products using data product thinking, then whatever it is you're building, I'm willing to call that a data product.
Yeah, probably the main difference is that a product has to consider what happens in the market. It's not only about only collecting data, but about what the data are used for. You have to have the customer in mind when you are designing the product, because it's a product, not a collection of data, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so for most of my career, especially early on, right, there was a day where we shipped, say we were building a new, data mart in a data warehouse and some reports on top of it. And then the day came when we shipped them and then we were done. Like we moved on to something else, right? And that's not how products are built and maintained. Like the day you ship is really the beginning of the next phase of the process. It's not the day that you walk away. And so, it's exactly what you said, David. Like you need to think about the stuff you're producing as products in a market. They really are. And this is another thing. So we started the conversation about Excel, right? You may think to yourself, let's say you're on a team and you produce analytics and business intelligence for internal users. So you say to yourself, well, there's no market here, right? Because we produce the internal data assets and people have to use them. And so there's no market. I would say, no, there is, right? Your competitor is Excel. And if you are not producing useful data products that people want to use, they will choose your competitor. And you oftentimes will just not know it, right? And so you will exist in the illusion that like, oh, there's no competitive landscape within the company. We're not competing with anybody, but you are. You're competing with, what, I'm not going to call the data team because they're too slow or they don't deliver what I need. I'm just going to do it myself in Excel. Or, even the worst case scenario, we're going to get budget and spin up our own data team, in the marketing department or in the supply chain department. That's going to, and that's like the centralized data team's nightmare. I find often is that, oh, there's all these shadow pockets of data teams that exist in the business. And so, that's one of the reasons why I think data products are super important, because it recognizes that, our users, no matter who they are, do have options about what data they choose to consume and how they choose to consume it. And if we're not meeting their needs, then they're going to go somewhere else.
One crucial point for me in this is that I would like to add is the sustainability. Because if you run a project which has a clearly defined start and end, you have produced something and shipped it, and then the team that has made it, they make the thought around it, are gone usually. And if you have a product, basically, I as a consumer know this is the steady team behind it. They're gonna do the next evolution to it. I can really drop my feedback. I can get support from them. And it has more like a really you producing something that it means brings value to someone. And if the data contract looks this way or the other way, that's not important. As long as it really satisfies the customer needs, as you well described. Totally, I like the idea actually, and it's not a technology thing. It's like it's really we have the software engineering principles, but now we have to take the business side with us to inhale these concepts and really live it and really adapt it. Like there's a bright future, and there's a lot of so much potential for agents and BI and everything, but this has to become true.
Yeah, exactly, Tim. And it's like, what are the software engineering principles for? I mean, one of the things therefore that data people are very familiar with is quality and control. So, the software engineering principles, CI/CD, they do give you a degree of that auditability, traceability, that data people oftentimes, especially in business intelligence, have not had. So I can tell you lots of horror stories of, we got an audit and we need to prove who changed what when on the reports. And it's just not possible in many BI tools. They don't have that information, or at least they didn't. I think many of them do now, but 10 years ago they didn't. But the other thing that software engineering techniques is to enable you to ship product quickly, learn quickly, and adapt quickly, right? And so if you're going to say, hey, we're going to embrace all these software engineering techniques, but we still plan on living in this very slow moving world, very traditional kind of IT workflow where you take, maybe a year to deliver a project and then you're done. I would argue that you don't need the software engineering techniques for that, right? What you need them for is, hey, we're gonna ship a product and then we're going to maintain it over time and evolve it to continuously meet user needs. Then that's what the software engineering techniques are designed ultimately to support, So if you need to have that in place, I guess, is what I'm saying, right? If you're trying to embrace software engineering techniques and data, but you don't also embrace kind of product thinking and the ongoing living life, like the ongoing life cycle of data products, then you're not really getting out of those software engineering techniques the most that you could.
Completely agree. Yeah. So we came from AI agents to data products, but it all ended up with classical software engineering.
Yeah, I mean,
fundamentals.
Right. And we'll just see how long it takes for the AI agents to be the ones managing all of this, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore, right? They'll handle it.
We are not mature enough. I think that there is a lot of hype with AI agents. Yeah, and I'm sure that they will come, but not today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, but not today.
Yeah, I agree, right? I mean, we look at like when it comes to that, I mean, we ask ourselves internally too, like with the AI we're developing, we really also want to focus on, okay, so what, right? Like the AI can build a chart for you. That's great. But, what are the next actions you want to take in BI? And oftentimes it's, you want to distribute the data to someone, you want to set up a schedule, you want to create a new calculation based on something you've seen, right? How can we enable the AI to do those sorts of things? And it's really complicated. And also, AI is there's a lot we can do to make it more accurate, but it's not, the AIs we have today are not deterministic. And so sometimes you ask it to do something and it does something else. And in a weird way, like human beings do. And people don't expect that out of computer systems. Computer systems, you tell it to do something. I can remember my dad was in computer science too. And I can remember as a kid, telling him like, oh, I didn't, the computer did it wrong. And he would always say to me, no, the computer always does exactly what you told it. Right. And we're entering a world where that's not always going to be true. And that's, I think, going to take a change for everyone. And particularly when it comes to the AI, to tie it to AI agents, right? A world where the AI can do anything you ask, except it's sometimes not going to do what you ask, is a very different world than I think the one we're used to. And it's going to be a big problem to solve.
Yeah, I agree. There are many challenges we have to face with agentic AI and with AI in general. Yeah.
But I think it will take some time. Like I think you described pretty well, Ryan. We're coming from a deterministic world, and everyone now is trying to jump on this probabilistic world. And once people will recognize it's neither black or white, it's like always you have to find the right balance somewhere between when to use what. I mean that's the great field of neurosymbolic AI, but I think we are still in the hype curve where everyone's like, it's all probabilistic, all the LLMs, but then sooner or later they will figure out, oh, deterministic has probably there's some advantages.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think, I mean, the interesting thing about the agentic approach to me is just the way it hopefully can help with this is that, we can have the AIs hand off tasks to the deterministic systems when it makes sense. Just a super simple example of that. In GoodData, we do not have the AI write SQL, right? SQL, because it's probabilistic. What we do is we have the AI. We already had a semantic layer and an SQL generation engine in place. So really, the AI just provides instructions with the semantic information to the SQL engine. The SQL engine is, of course, deterministic, and so with the same set of instructions, it will always produce the same answer. Now, does that give you 100% accuracy? No, right? Because the AI can hallucinate asking for the wrong thing. But it helps dramatically, right? And that's just a simple example of an AI handing off a task to a deterministic system when it makes the most sense. And so that integration point, I think, will help. But we'll see. Like, a world where like you have essentially a super intelligence at your fingertips, but like sometimes it messes up in the same way that any old person would mess up, is very interesting, and I don't know entirely how to handle that, right? Both as a product executive and also as a person.
So one last question. Can the Silver Surfer beat Hulk?
Can what?
Can the Silver Surfer beat Hulk?
Yeah, of course he can. Yeah, no. So let's break this down, right? Hulk is super strong. Okay, we got that. I mean, he's unquestionably stronger. But the Silver Surfer, okay, let's look at his powers. He can fly faster than the speed of light. He can transmute matter with thought. Okay, he's got super powerful like energy blasts, and he's nearly indestructible. So, you put all that together, and I just think that, I mean, can Hulk be killed? Maybe not, but I think the Silver Surfer could contain him and ultimately win. And this is a position I've maintained since I was 7. So it's I'm not backing down now. I have a Silver Surfer coffee mug even. I'm not drinking it today, but it's too bad the timing didn't line up. I could show that to you guys, but yeah, that's my position on it, and I'm not changing.
Therefore, I love data. So thank you very much, Ryan.
Yeah.
Give us a little hint how the agent will be called from GoodData.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So thank you very much that you were in our podcast. It was really nice to see your opinions also on different kind of topics. So I guess, Tim, David, we will see us in the next podcast. And just don't forget to follow us on, of course, LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, and so on. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.